Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of your favorite podcast, Hindsight is Horrifying. I'm Jason Mitchell, and I'm here with my co-host,
Darth Jader.
And tonight we are continuing down the path of scary movies. Especially scary tonight, at least my co-host found it to be very scary. This is, of course, another of our That's Horror Like It Halloween Movie Month extravaganza. Tonight, we are doing a fairly recent movie. This is only, I think, 6 years old?
Yep, 2013.
Yeah, 2013. Mm-hmm. The based on a true story, and you can't hear my air quotes.
Gene, what have I told you about air quotes? not to
do them. Yeah. We are talking about The Conjuring. And Darth, why don't you tell us a little bit before I start, ranting and raving about based on a true story.
Yeah, because I know you've got a lot to say about this movie as well. But listeners, before I get into my synopsis, which will be very different from our guests, and you'll understand why in a moment, let me introduce our very special guest. We've got another relative of mine in the studio today. Her name is Brandy.
Hi.
Hello,
hey, Brandy.
hello.
Thank you for joining us in the studio for this spooktacular event, The Conjuring.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, we're excited. And we're sipping on our coffees and stuff and getting all excited. So that's awesome. Brandy, I know I was texting you a little bit while we watched this movie. So basically what happened, listeners, we know at this point that your beloved Darth is an absolute chicken and she hates scary things. And so far, with the movie choices that we've had, I haven't had to deal with too much scary stuff, minus Shivers, which horrified me.
We've
on a different level.
Yeah, we've seen things that scared us just in a different way.
Yes, and that's a great way. That's a diplomatic way of phrasing it. But this particular movie, I've been teased so many times, Brandy, because I take so many notes for each and every episode, no matter what the movie is, TV show, regardless. You'll see in my very special notebook that is normally covered with red ink for first viewings, I just wrote the word nope in huge red letters, and I'll take a picture for the show notes.
See, I didn't say it this time.
I know. Yeah. It's just a running joke at this point.
But that's got to be in there, though. It's just too good not to be in there.
I will add it. I was actually so scared that I waited for Josh to come home so I could cling to him like a little koala bear and make sure I wasn't going to die while I watched this movie, because it scared the lights out of me. And I was so scared that I, honest to God, can't really tell you what it's about. It seems like Amityville Horror meets The Exorcist.
Well, for those of you who haven't seen it, it is a story that is based on the tales of a pair of very famous paranormal investigators.
Yes.
Or demonologists, which one point I do want to bring up is... in the movie, somebody says, "What do they call you?" And Ed Warren.
Ghostbusters.
Well, no, Ed Warren's. They've called us demonologists. You
prefer supernatural investigators.
Yeah, you called yourself that.
Yeah.
Okay. But it is about.
They write their own press releases, Morty.
Yeah. Ed and Lorraine Warren, the very famous paranormal investigators, who are now both passed away. Ed passed away some time ago. Lorraine Warren passed away not terribly long ago. And this is based on the Annabelle case.
Yes. So, why don't we let Brandy tell us a little bit about this movie, because she picked it. And Brandy, what's your take on this movie? What's it about, and why do you love it so much? Why did you pick it for this particular episode?
Well, as you know, I had a difficult time choosing what I was going to pick.
I was badgering her on Messenger Talk the other night, and Josh was like, "Do you know how I know you're talking to your girl cousins on the phone?" I was like, "Tell me." He goes, "You start a lot of your sentences with girl, let me tell you." And I was like, "Yeah, that's accurate." So I was like, we hadn't caught up in a while, so that's probably why. But so please continue.
I chose it. I had a difficult time choosing between something kind of funny and campy, because I know that Jade doesn't really care for super scary movies, and I'm sure to her that this is pretty scary.
Oh my God. Yes.
I don't find a whole lot that actually scares me, but I find, especially things that are based on true stories,
quote unquote true stories,
quote yeah,
well,
quotation marks.
And I just want to point out, so this is supposedly based on a true story. There's a crawl in the beginning of the movie where it talks about the Warrens, and it describes this as a case they've kept locked away until now.
Right.
So it's based on a true story movie that begins with a bald-faced lie. because I heard about this case and the Warrens' involvement in it over 20 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it hasn't been kept under lock and key. I mean, there were pictures. I think one of the first pictures of anything spooky I saw on the internet was actually a picture of the doll in their quote-unquote museum.
I think I may have found something in my research, because I did do some research, so I would have something to mention, but it sounds like they sort of twisted the crawl because it looks like it was a work in progress for 20 years, the movie, not the releasing of the actual story. So it says there was an actual bidding war for the movie that was between 6 different studios before and after the fate, and all the facts came out. But yeah, apparently that was why it was a 20-year in the making sort of a thing.
Okay, maybe. But anyway, yeah. So carry on though. We I'm gonna try not to keep.
Yeah, don't let Jason steamroll you, Brandon. Keep talking.
No, you're completely fine. So I pretty much chose it just because I have watched all of the movies basically that have to do with the Warrens. And of course, The Conjuring was the first one, but you can tell, in the beginning of the movie where it automatically leads into Annabelle because they're, talking to the group of the younger girl, the 2 roommates about the doll and what's happened and everything. And then totally skips over all of that and then goes strictly to the case of the family and the house that's supposedly possessed by the witch and all of that. But upon watching this movie originally, and then of course I had to look up everything about them and realizing that they had also done investigations on the Amityville horror case, which is quotation marks.
Yeah.
Quotation marks, true story
but
or
Ryan
whatever.
Reynolds was in the remake.
Well, and I think the Amityville horror is one of the reasons why I'm a bit
skeptical.
Well, it's beyond skeptical because I used to be really big into this stuff and I still love it. I mean, I watch all the documentaries and I'm still fascinated by it.
Yeah, because Brandy, you don't know this. Our listeners do. I believe that Jason grew up in a haunted
house.
I
grew up in a house that had a lot of very bizarre, strange things happen. But the Amityville horror was always sort of like this gold standard. It was the most terrifying movie I ever saw whenever I was a kid because it was quote unquote true.
The Brolin version.
Yeah, the original. The 1970 something version.
The good version.
Yeah, the good one. Yeah. And when you start digging into the case, not as a kid, but as somebody who's actually looking into it, and you realize there's so many contradictions in it. There's so many things that are obviously just made up that the case really becomes something you look at and you go, I really don't have any confidence that any of it actually happened.
So you guys, what is this story? Because I was not joking when I said I was so scared that, because once the dog died, I was out. And it only got worse from there.
Yeah,
and the dog dies in like the first 10 minutes. And what's the story of Annabelle? What is the backstory? Because I was so scared I don't remember what the movie was about.
Well, basically what they were, what led up, Annabelle was kind of just like, I guess, an introduction and maybe an introduction to a future movie. And you hop in on this because you seem to like have a lot more knowledge backstory than I do.
Yeah, Annabelle. The actual case that it's based on was a case that centered around a Raggedy Ann doll.
Okay.
Which
is not what this doll looked like in the movie. She looked like she survived several fires and a throwing into the swamp.
That's another reason why the movie kind of rubbed me the wrong way, because it's, okay, well, this actual story was about a Raggedy Ann doll, but we're not going to do a Raggedy Ann doll. We're going to go out and deliberately make something that looks terrifying. The reason that the story was scary was because this kid had this doll, and the mother would notice, and there are elements in the beginning of the movie where she's describing things that happened, and those are from the story that I recall, with she would put the doll on the kid's bed and she would cross its arms, and then she would go out and she'd come back and the arms would be uncrossed, or vice versa, stuff like that. And then the doll started moving, and then really weird things, objects started just appearing in the house.
So Elf on the Shelf, but demonic.
Well, it's funny you say that, because one of the things that appeared out of nowhere, and I'm not making this up, they might have been, was a chocolate boot that like showed up and I think the interpretation of that was that, well, the demon picked something so utterly random that nobody could have said, oh, well, oh, that's my chocolate boot. I left it there.
Right. And, like you do.
Chocolate.
But we're not talking about reality. We're talking about a movie.
Yes.
And I will say it's got two big things going for it in my book, which one is Patrick Wilson. I'm a huge fan of Patrick Wilson.
Me too.
And the other is Ron Livingston. And
I love him. Yeah.
One, everyone loved Ron Livingston. But the other thing is that Ron Livingston in this movie looks exactly like my dad when he was that age. My dad.
I think most dads looked like that during this particular
year. Same hair color, same hairstyle.
Really?
Even the face. I mean, it looked like he looks like he could be playing my dad from 1970. Blah, blah, blah.
Down to like the Walter White moccasin shoes.
All of it. The whole amazing. 9 yards. Yeah.
Well, see, and this is where the movie really lost track with me because they have the dog, this collie dog that looks like Lassie out in the yard, and she's clearly trying to tell her humans, hey, bark, this house is haunted, bark, yeah. I'm going to be dead by morning, bark. And golly, if she isn't, just. Yeah. So they wake up, and I was like, Josh, if I woke up, first of all, Millie wouldn't be sleeping outside on a chain. I know it was the 70s, but still. If I woke up and Millie had died mysteriously and I couldn't tell, like, not of an animal attack or being hit by a car, like, if I couldn't tell why my dog had just suddenly died, I'd be out. All right, we're selling the house. Gotta go. Let's rent an apartment in town.
You have to because, not the paranormal thing, but we actually had a guy in that same house that I lived in that was haunted. It was in a really kind of crappy part of town. There was a trailer park right across the bayou from us. Mm-hmm. And there was a guy there who his hobby was killing dogs. What? And he actually murdered one of our dogs. He poisoned, a German Shepherd. Wow. Yeah.
Oh no.
I was in college before my parents actually told me the true story. Because when I was a kid, it was.
What did they tell you happened to it?
Well, the dog ran away, and then my dad actually found it. And they had found, and it was dead, and took it to a vet, and the vet confirmed what happened. And they never told me that. They just said, well, we found him, and he was dead, but it looks like he was probably sick, and that's why he ran off, because animals will do that.
They hide under the porch or what? Yeah.
It was.
How do you explain to your little kid that there's that kind of evil in the world where somebody just uses their spare time to murder a dog?
That guy ended up
dead, I hope.
Well, he had the crap beaten out of him by some people. His place, the trailer that he lived in, was actually set on fire.
Yay!
And
maybe he was in it.
And he vanished
suddenly.
And that was all anyone ever heard.
And if you live by the bayou, I mean, you never know.
There were lots of things there that would eat you.
Yeah,
so plenty of them.
If you wound up in the bayou, there was a good chance you were.
I'm not saying he was killed, but I am pretty sure that people in the area took it upon themselves to make it very clear you need to go.
Well, it's like killer whale syndrome. When they find a threat in their neighborhood, they hunt it down and kill it. Like if they think a shark is trying to hunt their children or whatever, that's what they'll do. So maybe that they were just going killer whale pod on the guy. Who knows? But back to the movie. Despite the fact that I'll never understand this. I know that horror movies are just widely popular and people love going to the theater to be scared and stuff. But this was one of the most successful horror movies of all time, apparently.
Yeah, it was.
It had a budget of just about like $20 million, but it was like one of the top rankings, and it did great in the box office. So I don't know. That's kind of amazing to me, considering it's got, like I said, it's kind of Amityville meets.
Yeah, it's a surprising, and not to, I like horror movies. I'm a fan of horror movies, but even being a fan of horror movies, watching this, it's a surprisingly good film, just from a film standpoint. Okay. And I think part of that is the actors, the people in the movie are genuinely good, particularly the Warrens and the Perrins, the parents, whose name is Perrin.
Not to interrupt you, Jason, but we've gotten on our second sign of weirdness here, because first of all, the dog dies.
Yeah.
Mysteriously, and the mom, like kind of the same time realizes that she's got these really gnarly bruises on her. And at first she thinks, the dad got a little rough with her or something when they were sleeping together the night before. And she's like, what'd you do to me? And he was like, not that. So you've got these strange little things that are just starting to pop up.
And that's one thing that I want to say that I really liked about the movie is that it doesn't include a lot of stuff that movies like this typically would include, which would be like, in almost every horror movie like this, at some point you would have mom and dad yelling at each other because they're being driven crazy by all these horrible things happening. Right. And it's not in there. It's like it does focus pretty exclusively on what's actually happening. There's the little thing with, Ed being like, oh, I won't let Lorraine do this because I'm afraid I'll lose her. And it's like, well, we know she doesn't die. We know she's going to be fine.
Right.
She outlived Ed by she lived long enough to completely destroy her reputation by being a regular on Paranormal State.
Well, apparently she started her cameos early because she had a cameo in this movie.
I didn't spot it, but that makes sense.
I didn't either, and this is what's infuriating about the article in front of me. It says, the woman that went through the harrowing process of the true story was indeed asked to play a part in the film. It wasn't that involved, but it was more than enough to realize who she was. And guess what? I didn't. So.
Yeah, does it say in there?
No, it doesn't specify. That's what's infuriating about it.
I haven't ever spotted her.
Oh, that's interesting.
I knew that she supposedly made a cameo appearance, but I don't know who she was in it. And
the sign is authentic. The sign on Annabelle's glass case is authentic. But the whole thing, the Raggedy Ann. If you see a picture of the Raggedy Ann doll on the internet, it's got the absolutely no do not open sign on it. I always wanted to go to that museum. I'm
sure they'll be selling tickets soon after her passing.
Yeah, I wonder if it's probably still open. I'm sure they had an organization,
Wait, what museum are we talking
about? They had a museum. This whole thing that you're seeing in the movie where they have all the artifacts from different exhibits.
Oh, the Warrens actually had a real museum?
Yeah, and it was a museum, which is another thing that always made people think, well, wait a minute. You have this, and in the movie, Ed Warren is like, well, it's like, we keep the guns here, not on the street. They'll we can't destroy them, but
can't have them haunting other nice families.
Yeah, but we'll keep them here. No, make sure you don't touch that, But you have a museum where people can come in and gawk at them
and potentially touch them and get cursed.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
But just take them to Curse Purge Plus. So Rick will help you out.
Yeah, yeah. It's a doll that'll let you live forever, but it'll make you kill your kids.
Oh, super!
For $29.95, I can get rid of the part where it'll make you kill your kids,
and then you'll have a nice doll.
Yeah.
And also in the movie, though, that's one thing that's different is because the museum's in their home in the movie and under lock and key. So I don't know.
They may not at the time. Maybe the museum was just stuff in their home. Maybe it wasn't like the actual. Because I'm trying to remember the name, the something Paranormal Society that New England Paranormal Society, I think was theirs.
I mean, it may have started in their home, which would have, contributed to the lore. But
also, I don't think Ed Warren ever had guns like Patrick Wilson has in this movie.
Probably not.
It's sort of like A Beautiful Mind all over again, where it's like Russell Crowe, the ripped mathematician.
Oh my God! Well, he's got to have muscles. We've got to draw in the feminine crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently the home is still pretty famous. Like up until The Conjuring was released to theaters, the home where the happenings occurred, it had been like kind of quiet and sleepy. But then after the movie came out, there were all these incidences of there was a slew of robberies and a whole bunch of vandalism to the point where the homeowners sued the movie makers and producers because it kind of ruined their lives.
Well, I can kind of see that,
It's like, thanks for drawing attention to what was once my haven. My life is ruined.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that always makes me very skeptical about these is you'll hear things about like these houses, and it's like the house in the Conjuring or the Amityville Horror or tons of other ones, and you go and you look into it, and 9 times out of 10 you find that other people are living in that house today, and they're like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, they don't have a single issue with it.
Yeah, absolutely nothing at all.
Nobody's dog died. Nobody's cat was strung up from a tree. Nothing crazy like that.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Lorraine is that, she has her visions.
Yeah.
But I've seen enough of her on TV having visions that are,
Pretty much on-demand visions.
You know, I mean, I don't want to just be that guy who says she was just lying her ass off. And I'm not saying that. I'm not saying she was lying her ass off. But I am saying that I personally don't believe in the truth of it, in the factiness of it.
Oh, there we go. That's a pretty, common horror movie trope, the static on the television.
Yeah. Well, it was the 70s.
Back when static was a thing.
Yeah, static happened. But the movie, again, getting away from the truth of it, I do like the way it's shot. I like the fact that it feels like a horror movie from the 70s.
Yeah, the camera work was great on this movie.
There's not a lot of gore,
no.
which is a plus for me. I'm not a big fan of gore. It's a pretty tame movie.
I'm just a really big chicken.
No. I mean, look, scary movies can be, by tame, I mean, there's no nudity.
It doesn't overcompensate with stuff that doesn't tell the story. Yeah.
I like the fact that it didn't take 20 minutes to get into the fact that you knew something was going on, because with a lot of movies, horror movies especially, they'll drag out a little bit.
Well, it's almost like they want you to be invested in the character, so they show you how happy the young couple is with their pretty children and their happy dog. And
well, it feels formulaic at that point.
No, it does.
It's like, okay, we've seen this 1,000 times.
Well, that's why I agree with you, Jason, where it didn't have those usual distractions where it's like, oh, maybe the father's beating the mom? Like you never think that about Ron Livingston in this movie.
No, and he's nice the whole time.
And I don't know how, because he's married to a woman and they have 5 girl children. And I don't know about you, Brandy, but I would rip my damn hair out if that were
I would have thrown them in the cellar and boarded it back up.
Yeah, I would have just been like, yo, my wife is possessed and she's killing them all. Great.
Well, I think at first he would probably just be hopeful that the ghost was a guy, because then he'd at least have another guy to hang out with. It's like, it's a chick. No, not doing this. We're not bringing another woman in the house.
Nope. Even the dog was a girl. Her name was Sadie, and I'm just like, this poor guy is like swimming in the estrogen ocean.
And I'm driving to Florida, and I don't care if it's half my rate. And that's the only time that they deal with that, and I appreciated that. It's like, we're poor. Established.
Yeah, and you get it.
Yeah.
But I think the dad does appreciate those little vacations, because he's a trucker, so he obviously spends long amounts of time on the road, and he's like, oh, half my rate, but totally worth it. It's not been this quiet in months.
Well, it's funny how it didn't affect him. It was only the women in the house as well, because, he would hear things and see things, but he definitely wasn't possessed, or he didn't disappear like the little girl did, and all of that, but he was just like the rock of the family, pretty much.
And I appreciated him, because he would just charge in, and even though he couldn't see what was happening, because once again, it's not like the typical horror movie where it's like, Sally, are you really seeing these things, or are you just making it up? Yeah. Like, no, the parents, they're concerned about the kids the entire time, and I liked that too.
I'm glad you said that, because that was something that I thought of while watching the movie. There's none of that, which is so, come on, there's no guy. What are you talking about, a ghost? You crazy woman, you're nuts. You're just being an idiot, stupid woman.
Yeah, and the mom rolls with it in a mom kind of way, where she's like, oh, we're playing with your imaginary friend? That's fun. And then she sees something in the little mirror in the jewelry box, or what is it, Jack in the Box?
Changes everything.
Oh, God. And that's when you see that the imaginary friend is real. And the birds flying into the house. What was the reason for that? Why were the birds?
I don't remember.
Why were they kamikazing themselves?
I don't think it ever said in the movie exactly why they were doing that, but you can see, further on into the movie towards the end, that there's all of those birds that are just like kind of flying around and breaking out windows. And
there was a deleted scene where he's like, why did it knock 3 times? Oh, it's taunting you. Oh, well, why is it 307? Oh, well, it's insulting the Trinity. Why'd the birds fly into the house? Birds are stupid. Right? Birds are dumb.
Filthy flying rats. But I do like this too, because in the Amityville, the whole deal of it is that, like, Brolin is this single handsome guy who they make it seem like he took pity on his wife by marrying her, because he married a woman with a bunch of children. Yeah. And they're like, oh, he's such a great, awesome husband. And in this, there's none of that. Like, there's none of that tackiness going on where it's like, we don't need all this extra exposition. Yeah. They're just a happy family. Like, we don't need all this extra tie-in. They just enjoy each other's company. How about that?
Yeah, and it it benefits from the fact that it's not like those god-awful Paranormal Activity movies where...
I hate every one of them.
Yeah,
I've never been able to watch one.
Well, I don't think they would scare you because what scares you in Paranormal Activity is nothing happens, a chair moves. And it's accompanied with this incredibly loud sting. The bong, and so you jump.
It's more startling,
it's all
kind of like
startle.
Final Destination.
Yeah, it's all startle.
Oh man, Brandy, have you ever seen my dad jump 40 feet in the air? You would if you had gone to see Final Destination with him.
Oh, really?
He was pretty jumpy during that movie, especially when that girl gets hit by the Mack truck in the middle of the street. I was sitting right next to him. He almost
the logs on the back of the truck.
No. The girl's breaking up with her boyfriend, and she walks into the road, and she turns around. She's like, "I hope you drop dead," and then a semi just smashes her.
There's like what, 5 of those now?
They're hard to differentiate. I only ever saw the first one, so I don't know. But I do know better than to stay behind a log truck from what my friends have said
or
about
let
the
your
sequel.
water bottles roll on the floor.
I don't know about that one.
Yeah, it's that. I think that was the one with the truck with the logs on the back of it.
Ooh,
and it
Lordy.
was like, yep.
Yeah, never drive behind those.
No.
Ever. Yeah, they're There's a reason why those guys can't get insurance.
Well, Brian Regan's got a great joke about log trucks. He's like, I was on the interstate once, and there was a log truck going in my direction, and then I saw one going in the opposite direction, and I was like, wait a minute. So if they need logs over there, and they need them from where I was coming from, like, you'd think a phone call would have saved a whole lot of trouble. But yeah,
Different
less
logs.
log trucks. Come on, make a phone call. But yeah, so now... what is this variation of hide and seek?
I was about to ask you about that. I've never seen hide and seek played like this before, where it's the person seeking is going to hurt themselves.
Yeah,
It's like injure the person seeking. It's like really hardcore hide and seek.
it's like Marco Polo, but with sharp edges.
Or stairs.
Yeah.
Like waiting for her to fall down the stairs.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think rule number 1 of this game would be only play it on the ground floor.
Yes, and to tell our listeners what is happening, the seeker is blindfolded, and then they're feeling around the house, and they get like a certain amount of claps to find the person that they're seeking. So it like I said, it's like Marco Polo. You yell out clap, and the person claps for you, so you're drawn to the sound of wherever they're hiding.
Yeah.
But yeah, so obviously they use this. I guess that the blindfold had to be implemented to get some other scary moments because things are happening around the mom in the house while she's blindly walking around like, where are my daughters? And it's like, oh, your house is haunted, Mrs. Perrin.
Well, yeah, and then, it wasn't in that scene. It's in a later scene when the thing jumps from the dresser, the like possessed thing jumps on the mom.
Yeah, something like that.
And I still don't actually know what the hell that was. Like, that's the thing. I actually still don't really know what the movie's like.
See, maybe we're having that experience where, like, years from now, you and I will be. What was that syndrome or whatever where we were talking about it on Marie's Are You Afraid of the Dark? Where it's like she could remember this specific episode of Are You.
The Mandela effect.
Yes, the Mandela effect, where we're like, I remember this movie. Oh, the Denzel movie, Fallen.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I said that on the episode, and I wasn't sure if I was right, so I finally...
Is that the one with the touch?
Yeah, where the demon is possessing,
yes.
and it lives in its host, and then if the host dies, it has to inhabit somebody else within like 3 minutes, or it goes back to hell or dies or something, and then the big twist ending, so that was that one. But with the Mandela effect, Brandy, if you're not familiar with this, is like... Our friend Marie was like, I remember this specific episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? It was called this, but she can't find it anywhere now.
I've had my boyfriend and I have a lot of conversations about this, like the Berenstain Bears.
Yes, that's what.
And the Chick-fil-A logo.
Yeah,
there's something with the Chick-fil-A logo we were talking about one time.
There's a bunch of them of examples of it. There's like the Pikachu's tail. One group of people remember it one way, and another.
Isn't it a lightning bolt?
I'd have to.
He's a little lightning rat.
The one that always gets me is the Berenstain Bears, and how they've never in this timeline ever been called the Berenstain Bears.
Yeah,
they've never been called that.
But I've always called them that.
Yeah, and I mean, there are very good explanations for why that is the case. Why you remember it one way, but it was actually the other. But it is still intriguing, and I mean, I've told you my Ed Herman story. That there was that series that was narrated by Ed Herman that to this day, I can find no evidence that that series ever existed.
Well, that happened to me with Adam Darby's It, because I remember seeing this movie when I was a little girl where this creature or demon or whatever could sort of kill you with its shadow. And it would occasionally turn into a clown, as memory serves. But one person was walking down an alley, and the shadow turned into a T-Rex.
It's a very low budget horror movie.
Well, yeah, it was just shadow puppets.
Yeah.
But it turned into a T-Rex and ate the person when they were walking down the alley. And for whatever reason, I linked that to It because there was a clown involved somewhere.
Wait, was that in Killer Clowns from Outer Space?
I think you've asked me this before, and I'm really not sure because I haven't seen that one. Yeah. Unless I'm, like I said, Mandela effect. So it's just messing with me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what else is going on in this movie? Where so the mom keeps waking up with mysterious bruises.
Yeah, things accelerate.
Yeah.
As they are wont to do. And the Warrens are sort of on the periphery of it, and then they get dragged into the investigation.
Mm-hmm.
Ed's. The movie portrays it as though Ed was like, no, don't want to deal with it. There's a logical explanation for it, and Lorraine's,
we've got to help these people.
Yeah, she's the empathetic one. We have to help.
What if it were me? Like, she guilted him into it somehow.
Yeah.
But it's like you said, Jason, because you said she loses a piece of her with every investigation, apparently. It sort of takes a little bit away from her. I don't know. That's what her husband said.
Yeah, I don't know.
But he actually cares about her, so
maybe
whatever.
every exorcism takes a piece out of her.
I would imagine.
But
it takes a lot of energy.
I will say,
like a horcrux.
Yeah, one thing though about the the whole, because the story is basically like the witch possesses someone and then makes that someone kill their kid.
Yeah,
and that's what by the end of the movie you realize, like, oh, that's what it's about. That's the actual mechanism.
The backstory seems to be like 8 generations of families lived and died in the house before the Perrons ever moved in. Andrea Perron at some point suggests that like spirits from the families never left. So the deaths include 2 documented suicides, a poisoning death, the rape and murder of an 11-year-old girl, 2 drownings, and the passing of 4 men who froze to death.
Well,
that's a lot of death.
It's a lot of deaths. It is. Interesting connection to this movie. My parents bought a piece of land in Mississippi years and years and years ago, and it was very wildernessy. There was a house there, but it was mainly just overgrown with trees and stuff. In the process of clearing it out, they found a tombstone, which is not in the country, it's not that unusual.
Well, because you kind of had to have them ready because they weren't exactly on order, right? Yeah. So.
Well, and people, there wasn't a cemetery necessarily.
Yeah, you had to bury your own relatives. Yeah. That's what I meant. You had to have them kind of at the ready.
But the tombstone told the story of a woman who had murdered all 5 of her children. Mm-hmm. And I think the way the tombstone was the way it read was, she went mad and she murdered her 5 children. And it, there wasn't much else on there. And so we presume that the children are buried right there also. Upon doing further research, it was exactly what was written there. It was in the late 19th century, early 20th century. There was a woman whose husband was like a surveyor or something, and they lived in the middle of nowhere. She had 5 kids. He was off on some sort of a trip, probably for work, I'm assuming. Sure. And
he's off on his trucking route.
Yeah, and she shot her 3 oldest kids.
Oh, Lord.
And then drowned the other 2.
Oh.
When they found her, they put her in a mental hospital in Jackson, Mississippi. She somehow got out of the hospital.
What?
And made it to a bridge and jumped into the river and killed herself.
Okay.
And it's an absolute true story.
How cheery.
Yeah. And
that's a feel-good story.
But the thing is, it's sort of like I've always wondered, okay, I'd love to have some paranormal investigators go out there. Like, okay, you want to find a place that's haunted? Go there.
It's like mandatory that it would be haunted.
I'll put it to you this way: if that place isn't haunted, hauntings don't exist.
Exactly.
Okay, if that isn't it, then nothing's going to get you there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you gotta. I wish there was like the opposite of a haunting, where like I know the whole thing behind hauntings is that something horrendous happened to the point where such a bad energy field was left behind that the hauntings take place. What would be the opposite of that? Like, what's something that's
like a really groovy guy dies, and so like the house he lives is just like this really groovy, laid back place, like,
almost like a Casper situation where he died doing what he loved. He was chasing his ball and he got smacked by a truck. But then he's a nice ghost, so it's like, I'll hang out with you. You're kid friendly. Like,
dude, Casper's messed up. That's one of those things.
I'm talking about his mentality, not that story around him.
Yeah, but do you ever think about that when you were a kid? Did it ever cross your mind as a kid? Like, wait a minute, Casper's dead.
They murdered a baby within 5 minutes. Yeah,
like,
it was terrible.
That's a dead kid.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if he's friendly.
Well, it's just like Beetlejuice. The Maitlands die in the first 8 minutes of the movie. And you're just like, oh, why?
Yeah.
Especially because that dog pulls the Acme moment and steps off the bridge and then they fall to their death into the creek. So, I mean, lots of movies start out that way, unfortunately. But this movie is now in full haunted swing where all the mirrors, because who doesn't hang 40 mirrors going up their stairwell? That's pretty common.
Well,
they had to have something that would dramatically shatter at the bottom of the stairs.
Yeah.
But the one thing I will point out that was a bit of a game changer is that they do show Mrs. Perrin starting to take pills because she keeps waking up with those bruises.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, so...
The pills were funny, though, to me, because they were iron supplements. And it actually says on the bottle.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, they're iron supplements, and it says, the diagnosis is actually on the pill bottle. So I think it said either iron deficiency or anemia or something like that.
You'd have to assume that with all the bruises that she has.
Well, no, and I thought it was funny because I'm thinking, okay, so in the 70s, did they do that? Did they actually print on the pill what you had? Like your diagnosis?
Oh, on the supplement?
Because it's sort of like, here's your prescription for anal warts. Like, thank you.
Well, she actually states that, too, in the movie.
Anal warts?
No. She didn't talk about her anal warts. But she did say to Ed Warren that was for her iron.
Yeah.
Low iron or iron deficiency or whatever.
It's,
gotcha.
And...
See, then that takes away my theory that was a bit of a distraction, because if they're just iron supplements, then that's not going to do anything. So that, never mind.
Yeah, as it is, it plays into, the movie being sort of, okay, we're not going to, because in another horror movie, that's exactly what it would have been.
Yeah,
she would have been taking pills and starting to hallucinate and stuff. Oh, you're not seeing ghosts, you're just taking your pills.
Yeah, exactly. And it would have been very the yellow wallpaper where, oh, she's having bouts of hysteria. We better, put her in bed forever.
Right.
But this is another thing I don't understand about scary movie world is that if I moved into a house and I found all these mysterious crawl spaces and there was a basement that had been clearly walled up.
Yeah.
And it's still filled with all this ancient.
No, I would have never opened it. I would have never went down there.
No, not like I wouldn't even have let Josh go down there with like a blowtorch. Just no, it's not happening. Don't do it.
I figure I would have, because the reality is, you're a working class family. You finally can afford to buy this house, which was sort of what happened to me when I was a kid. Because my parents to this day will deny that anything ever happened in that house.
Why?
They both deny. Both of my brothers and I are completely in agreement about shit did happen there. Mm-hmm. But it was sort of like, okay, well, you just bought this house. You don't exactly have the money to just go out and buy another house. So you're stuck. You've got to deal with this, so there might be a sort of rationalization that goes on where you're thinking, okay, well, this stuff's happening, but I'm stuck here. I might as well just tell them, no, it's not a ghost. It's definitely not a ghost. I personally would have burned the house down.
Yeah.
Or saged the shit out of it.
No, at the very least, yeah.
No, because Sage is stupid. Fireworks.
Get Jensen Ackles out there with Jared Padalecki, who's about to be Walker, Texas Ranger. Has anybody heard?
No.
Yeah.
In a comedy?
I can only hope.
Is it funny?
I honestly saw that and just kept on scrolling. Like, I did not click on it. So the mom is in the mysterious basement, and now she's trapped down there.
Yeah.
And she keeps. I know the husband's away right now, but I would have called another adult human being. I would have been like, hey, somebody
spend
over
the night with me.
Yeah, come over here, or let me and my daughters spend the night with you, because weird shit is happening in my house.
Yeah. I think I probably would have. First of all, there would have been a lot more lights in the house. And again, this is today. If it was 2019, and it's a lot easier to do that.
Yes, this is true.
I would have figured out a way of making the house as unfriendly to ghosts as possible.
Oh yeah, no dark crevices.
No
for you
dark
to hide
crevices.
in.
Yeah, none of that. No. I'll get rid of every stick of furniture in the house if I have to.
Oh yeah.
You're not hiding anywhere.
No.
We'll sleep on Japanese mats, and you're not.
No monsters under the bed, gang. Nothing.
Yeah, and if it's like, okay, you guys sleep. One person stays awake all night with a shotgun. If that's what it takes.
Yep, we sleep in shifts.
But it's a lot easier just to burn the house down.
Yeah. Agreed. They kind of go with your train of thought there for a minute, Jason, because they all wind up sleeping in the living room.
And it's a huge house too. It's like 50,000 square feet. They constantly go into new rooms.
Yeah, and it's a bigger house than I'll ever be able to afford. But well, and part of it was that with all the deaths that happen in the house, it was dirt cheap, so that's why this working class family could afford to live there, just like in Amityville. Funny how those same kind of stories overlap. Yeah. But yeah, so the mom is kind of losing it, and the sister, this weird stuff is happening with the sisters. Two of the sisters share a room, and one of them thinks that the other one's waking up in the middle of the night to tug on her toes and wake her up and bother her, when in fact it's one of the spirits doing that.
Right. Yeah.
And the biggest sister, she lives in the bedroom with the haunted wardrobe.
Yeah.
And that is not Narnia hiding in that wardrobe.
Right. Yeah.
That's the witch, I guess, that's jumping down from the wardrobe.
See, I thought it was like a kid, but looking at it now, I guess it is the witch.
Or demon, whatever.
I thought maybe it was Annabelle
Witch
the
demon.
doll or something somehow, but like I said, when stuff like this jumped out at me in this movie, I'm feeling a little braver since it's light out and there's no sound in them.
Well,
we can hold hands.
It's isn't it interesting though? Yeah, when you can't hear the sounds.
Oh, the sound makes almost every horror
the visuals
movie.
aren't scary at all. There's no suspense without sound.
Not really.
But
and sound is my strongest sense. That's what attaches to my memory and everything. I always remember sounds. But so that's why it does. It gets a little harrowing with the great music, because whoever did the music is a very talented person. But so after all this stuff finally happens, and now literally everyone in the house has been somewhat touched by this haunting presence, except for the dad, as you point out, Jason. Now they try to get the Warrens involved. So there is kind of a lot of setup, honestly. I know, Brandy, you were saying that it's not like, yay, we're sunshiny and happy for 40 minutes and then stuff starts to happen.
Right.
You really jump into the hauntings, and it touches each and every one of the family members more and more and more until they're like, okay, screw it, we need to call somebody for help.
Yeah, and one thing that did kind of get me about this sequence, where the Warrens are apparently showing this footage, very convincing footage of a man crying blood and the cross coming through his
abdomen, or whatever it was.
Yeah, it sort of made me wonder if that really happened and there was really footage. Why don't you just use that footage?
Yeah.
I mean,
you don't have to pretend to be possessed on television. You can just show stuff like that.
Well, and they're not enacting it. I mean, the scene is that they're playing the footage on a screen in an auditorium.
Oh, and tell me if I'm wrong. The actor, his name, who plays Mr. Warren.
Patrick Wilson.
Patrick Wilson looks like Chris Evans, and Better Call Saul had a baby.
Well, I was about to say, I don't see the Chris Evans thing.
No, Chris Pratt, not Chris Evans. Sorry.
Oh,
Chris Pratt and Better Call Saul had a baby.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see the Bob Odenkirk, because I have confused him for Bob Odenkirk many times.
Well, in this movie back in 2013, 6 years ago, he was a bit of a younger man, so maybe. Yeah. But that's where I'm getting the Chris Pratt. I'm like,
yeah, he's so the first thing I ever saw him in was Watchmen, and he was really good in Watchmen.
Alongside Jeffrey Dean Morgan, the love of my life.
And he's in the Midway movie that's coming out.
Okay.
Which
he's also on all of the Insidious movies too.
Yeah.
Another movie I'm sure you've not seen, Jake.
Nope, I sure as hell haven't. Because Insidious, what was that one again? What were those about?
It was about the kid and astral projection and entering into another realm and having a medium come in and work with the family. And the dad actually in that one was one of the people that were possessed or being taken over or whatever. And it was Patrick Wilson.
His name was Patrick Wilson. Oh, wait, wrong movie.
Oh, yeah, I'm looking it up right now. Well, so, okay, you know, I mean, he's in it, so, you know, that would...
Must be legit.
Yeah, I'm still not going to see it. Yeah, horror movies just, I haven't seen a good, enjoyable... This, actually, I was surprised how much I enjoyed it. I really was expecting to go into it and not care for it a bit. But, you know, the performances, the way it's shot, everything, you know, and the fact that the Warrens... You know, say what you will about them, they were interesting people.
Oh yeah, I mean, they had a great story, but some of my research yielded that some people were just as scared of this movie as I am, because apparently the film was given an R rating due to simply how frightening it was. Like the filmmakers tried to push that down to a PG-13 rating and asked for the ratings for the board for clarification on that. Yeah. And they were like, no, the MPAA was like, no, there's absolutely nothing you can cut from this movie that would make it PG-13. And that doesn't surprise me at all, because this movie just terrifies me.
Well, but like, and he pointed out, usually an R rating would be nudity or sex or drug use or blood. Yeah. And there's not really anything that in this film at all.
Usually,
but it's still that terrifying.
Yeah, for most horror movies, they would put a single nude scene in it just to get the R rating.
Right.
Because there was, you know, that was always the idea of, well, if it's a horror movie and it's not rated R, how scary could it be?
Yeah.
You know, it is tame in that regard, which is a good thing. It's kind of light on the jump scares. It doesn't do the jump scares are in there.
But see, I think that's good that they're a little sparse on it, because
I hate jump scares.
Yeah, I'm not a fan either. And the less they happen, the more intense they are each time to me.
Right.
Like, you know, like we said with Final Destination, there's a jump scare almost every 10 seconds by the end of that damn franchise. So but this one, I don't know. This movie is great, but like I said, I was so scared. I couldn't pay attention to it. That's how like invested I was, but then my brain just like skipped over all the material toward the end.
Well, at a certain point, I mean, I think the movie's too long.
Okay.
Because it's right at 2 hours.
Is it really?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it's like an hour and 50 or something like that.
Gotcha.
I think that's too long. I think they could have trimmed it a bit.
Oh, for sure.
You know, that's a minor quibble. I think for me personally, as a Halloween movie, it works really well because it does have a great mood and a great sort of spooky ambiance to it the whole time. And it's not cheesy. It never gets into a cheese ball area.
No, it doesn't.
Where you're just rolling your eyes and going, "Oh, give me a break," you know. I mean, the whole ending thing, where the exorcism. After a while, you've seen enough exorcisms in movies that there's
a really strong wind for a second.
It's all the same stuff. Yeah. You're like, okay, yeah.
There wasn't any spider action in this one where she bends her body and goes down the stairwell.
There was vomit, and there's always vomit in an exorcism.
Yeah.
I wonder why.
Because
you're like expelling that energy or something.
Yeah, where the chair went upside down. That was neat.
That was.
You know, that was okay. But it's sort of like, okay, it's an exorcism. Let's get through this. And the whole thing with the Warrens' daughter, though.
Which one?
The girl.
Oh, the Warrens. Sorry,
the Warrens'
daughter.
That just felt sort of tacked on.
I honestly don't even remember what you're talking about. So what happened to her again?
If you didn't finish the movie...
No, I watched the whole thing. I'm just telling you, I think my brain turned into a vestigial organ out of self-defense.
Well, like she has the dream about, somebody sitting in the chair with Annabelle, the doll at the end. And it's like there's something, like the daughter in the beginning of the movie, she sneaks into the museum room.
Right. And the dad's like, "What are you doing in here?"
You can't come in here.
Get out of Georgie's room, Billy. See, I have watched that scary movie.
That would have been nice if they had like like his clown nose in there,
That would have been pretty awesome.
They have the
or at least the magazine of Tim Curry holding Life magazine surrounded by the kids. That would have been awesome.
Or the Ark of the Covenant, with a sheet draped over it,
Or the fetish doll from Halloween Town,
That's another case. Yes.
That's there should be a curtain up here. This is the adult section of the museum.
I do think it was a nice touch that the actress who plays Lorraine Warren dressed in a very distinctive way. And that's how she dressed.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, she's dressed like Lorraine Warren. Like when you see that, as somebody who's seen her a million times, even if I didn't know what this movie was about, I would go, oh yeah, she looks like Lorraine Warren.
There you go. And apparently, like Lily Taylor, the lady who played Mrs. Perrin, that's where I got the Exorcist feel. She apparently researched the Exorcist to prepare for her role of being possessed. So there you go.
Talk about the ultimate jump scare. I think we talked about this before, where the actress who played Reagan's mom in The Exorcist, the director wanted there to be a good reaction to something that Reagan was doing when she was possessed, and that he's like, I want you just to, when it happens, you need to look really startled, like really, really startled. And she did it and was like, it was okay. And so he came up with the expedient solution of getting a guy to get a shotgun and putting a blank shell in it. And literally they roll camera, and before he yells action, a guy sneaks up behind her with a shotgun.
Oh,
and so if you watch that movie, there's a scene in there where she looks a lot like somebody just, fired a shotgun, right behind her back. And that's exactly what happened.
Oh, wow.
She had partial hearing loss as a result.
Jesus.
And it ended up being a big thing.
Well, that's like poor Tippi Hedren in The Birds, when she was originally signed up for that movie thinking that like little stuffed animals or something were going to be thrown at her.
Yeah.
And then they threw live animals at her for like a week.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen to you. That happened to Tippi Hedren in The Birds.
Wait, I'm Tippi Hedren. Yeah, you wish.
You're not supposed to get in the bath with it, Bobby. But yeah, so Jason, I can see where you can sort of cut this movie down because we're talking through it a little bit.
Yeah.
But it is a little creepo how Lorraine walks around and she can feel the presence of the hanging girl in the tree, and she's really getting the impression of the whole haunting of the house.
Well, and the little boy, because there's the little boy ghost that likes to play tricks that disappears. The one in the mirror.
Yeah, that one was creepy.
And the maid.
Yeah, I remember seeing the maid in the basement.
Oh,
right?
okay. I didn't, because whenever I saw the cop have that scene where the maid's like, "Look what you made me do,"
Oh, that.
And I was
like,
who the hell is that? I thought it was like, is that like, did he have a girlfriend that killed herself because of something?
Yeah, it's like, how was he tied to this? Like,
yeah, that was sort of.
Or maybe
odd.
that's the ghosts that were like living in the house or something.
I don't know.
Because in the basement, remember, there's the lady downstairs as well.
Oh yeah, see that.
The Bathsheba Sherman woman?
That's the witch.
Okay.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Bathsheba was the witch.
Okay, yeah. Was suspected of witchcraft and killing an infant child.
Yeah, you name your daughter Bathsheba.
What the hell do you expect her? It's Bellatrix Lestrange. Like, it's
I mean,
it's going to happen.
It's like,
She's going to turn out crazy.
What are you, saving up for a bitch shortage? No, so yeah, the movie itself, as far as like the narrative goes, I think it's a little, it's told in a way that's sort of like if the Warrens were sitting telling you the story, like that's sort of how the chronology would go, I think. But at the end of the day, it does feel a little vague as far as what exactly, is going on. Because it is a movie. They've got to wrap it up.
Yeah.
They have to have an ending. They have to put, and in the actual story, there wasn't an ending.
Yeah, and the family lived there for a decade.
Yeah. I mean, the Warrens left and they were expelled from the house, I think they said. So, based on a true story, except for the whole thing where it went on for 10 years after the Warrens were there.
Andrea Perrin apparently even wrote a 3-part book based on her experiences. It's titled House of Darkness, House of Light. The experience is written about her. They also appear in the film, so there's some crossover there, but she cites the film as a work of art and not a work of fiction, apparently.
What exactly does that mean?
I have no idea because it's like
call that art.
No, because it's like if these horrible things really happen to you, like how is that art?
Well, and look, I totally get the idea of if something like this happens and you decide that you can make a profit from it, that's fine because you're taking it. If it really happened to you, you're taking a terrible thing
and turning it into a positive. Yeah,
that's fine. But it does sort of raise that specter of, are you cashing in on something that, nobody can verify any of this stuff, so you could, it's like I've said to people before who've claimed to be psychic.
Yeah.
It's
Miss Cleo.
Well, it's a very simple philosophy, which is that I'm not accusing you of being a liar, but let's say hypothetically you decided to lie about being psychic. Mm-hmm. How could I prove you wrong? And if the answer is I couldn't, then I really can't take anything you say seriously.
Yeah.
I can't verify or negate anything that you're saying. So,
Yes, but see, that's what you have to have, that faith in the mystical. Like,
I suppose.
I don't know.
I suppose. See, and I wonder how many cases, like, I don't know. I don't want to get into religion, but the movie does sort of, and the whole lore sort of makes you wonder, like, what if a Hindu family moved into this house? Or a Buddhist family.
Would it haunt them to the same degree? Or
would it be different? Would it be the same? Would the solution to the problem be reading from a Latin book of exorcisms? Like,
you have to wonder.
How's that all work? What are the rules?
Well, see, that's the thing. A lot of the movies that we've been watching lately, the rules seem kind of arbitrary. So
Yeah. Well, I do like the whole sequence when the team is there doing the investigation. I think that's the best part of the movie. Because all of the characters are interesting and likable. Yeah. And what they're doing is interesting. So, and that's kind of cool. I like the cop who, is like, I don't believe in any of this, but, I'm going to do it anyway.
Well, and this is one of those nice breaks in the film where, because in horror movies, you can't have the constant tension, the constant scare, and then you get a nice little break. You have the people who are there and it's sunny outside and nothing's going to happen for at least 20 minutes. So that's kind of what this feels like to me, is that you get the whole movie crew out there. And is that the deputy from Stranger Things?
No.
That's who he looks like. What's his name?
I can't remember.
Booker or something like that? I don't watch
Hopper.
it, so Hopper. Yeah. I
watched the first season. I really liked the first season. In fact, I liked Stranger Things season 1 so much that I refused to watch anything past then.
Especially now that it's so popular. Yeah.
Well,
people are freaking out about it.
Yeah, and it's sort of like
I've seen all 3.
Yeah.
The 4th one's coming out. They put the trailer out already.
I saw.
It's making money. And it brought back the 90s. Come on.
Yeah.
People are wearing scrunchies again.
And Winona Ryder's wearing those mom sneakers. I never thought I'd see her looking like that, man.
Stranger Things, like I said, season 1, I loved it so much that I don't want to see any more because it's like, okay, that was really good.
I enjoyed that. I'm going to let it go.
Yeah. Season 2 cannot make it, there's no way it's going to be better. It can only make it worse, in my opinion. So they are doing their investigation with their 1970s technology.
Yes.
Which is neat.
Yeah.
Seeing them, they don't have motion detectors, so they have like a thermostat connected to a camera. It must have been so much, more interesting to do stuff like this back then, because you've got to use like film instead of digital.
There was a lot more like digging around that you had to do once you got your footage, and unlike all the awesome technology that you guys can't see in Jason's office / our studio, guys, because he's got every little digital device and mobile device in the book.
Yeah, I collect gadgets.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Speaking of which, did you notice the new laptop?
I did.
The Dell XPS 13. Yeah.
Very fancy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a new toy that's going to help because up until now, all of the sound effects had to be done straight on the board. So if I wanted to give you a, that or that, I was limited in what I could do. But now that I can connect this, I can do so much more.
Oh, I'm excited to learn how to operate that. Yeah. That'll be fun.
But and again, the movie, I think, could be
shorter because we're just kind of wafting through it at the moment.
At this point, it's sort of, okay, stuff's happening. there is an ending, and then everyone goes home.
You do get that kind of, a happy family story in the middle of it, because now, Mrs. Perrin and Mrs. Warren are talking to each other, and it's like, oh yeah, this was our day at the beach. It was such a great opportunity for a photo. Like, it's just like, all right, this doesn't project.
Where it looks like they're standing in front of a green screen.
Oh yeah, a little
photo.
bit.
Yeah,
just a little.
I like the fact that they set up that the memory of that beach thing is going to come back in the end, but it's not such an obvious setup that you're just going, okay, when is that going to come back?
It seems like a bit of a one-off.
Yeah, it's sort of like, I can see that might just be something where she's, telling about the happy times and all that stuff. That's okay. It doesn't feel like...
So how does it come back? Like, what...
When she's like about to kill her daughter, that's what Lorraine's like.
Right, that kind of like pulls her back in when she's possessed by the witch.
Yeah.
That's what she's using to tell her to remember the good thoughts.
Remember that great memory.
Day.
Yeah.
Oh, everybody just keep loving Morty.
Yeah.
Remember the good times, Mom. Oh yeah, okay. But yeah, so they're all set up in the house, and they're trying to listen for paranormal activity.
Mm.
And oh no, it's dark again. That means something bad is going to happen.
Yeah, and it is kind of strange that they use shotgun mics all over the house, which is, somebody who deals with microphones.
I was about to say, I don't know what that means, so you're going to have to
explain
explain
mics are, that's like this, it's a microphone you see like on a boom pole in a movie. It's very directional. It's you point it right at something and you get the audio from right there. It seems like you wouldn't use that because you're not going to hear anything that's not right down the barrel of the shotgun.
Right.
I don't know.
Like if it's not pointed, if it's not pointed in the right direction, you're going to miss a lot. Like I see what you mean.
Yeah. I am realizing I'm getting bored with this movie, which is, take the sound off and it turns into kind of boring.
Bit. You took its superpowers away, I guess, is what it is.
It is a movie, though, if you are a grown-ass adult and you're capable of being scared by a movie, if you put this on at night when you're home alone, I guarantee you it will scare you.
Oh, yeah, listeners.
I'll say that much for it.
Oh, yeah, because I refuse to be alone when I watch this film. My best friend, Meg, who knows me, I asked her, I was like, hey, so we're about to do The Conjuring for the podcast, and... should I watch it? And she was like, wait until Josh gets home. She was absolutely right.
So I take it you're not going to watch The Conjuring 2?
Oh, hell no.
Or Annabelle, any of the Annabelle movies?
Ew, no.
Or The Nun?
There are movies about the doll? No.
Oh, God, The Nun. That movie was so awful. I hated that
Does
movie.
The Nun tie into this somehow, or is it just a different scary movie?
No. The Nun is so bad that my 9-year-old watched it and went, eh.
Well, your 9-year-old is a very logical badass.
He doesn't get scared by movies. It's so, he watches...
Unlike the evil Emperor Zurg.
Yeah,
Sworn enemy of the Galactic Alliance.
Ever since Zurg was the last thing that really scared him in a movie.
That is so funny.
And it scared the shit out of him. Aww. But now, no, he watches movies because he just thinks the whole ghost thing is just dumb. He's like, yeah. It's stupid.
Like, what are they going to do?
Yeah, that's what he says that. He's like, what's he going to do to me? And he's like, 1, they don't exist, and 2, they're dumb.
Wow.
Technically, not to correct you, but The Nun is technically a prequel.
Oh, is it?
To the Conjuring movie, yeah, because and I don't know if you've watched any of the Annabelle.
No, I
haven't.
The
Annabelle movies, The Nun is actually a figure in the movie, and
so
it's
that's
a
all put
prequel
together.
to The Conjuring, so it might give you something
Schooled your ass, Jason.
to watch on Annabelle.
Is it
Very
also
cool.
based on a true story, or is it?
I can't speak on that, but it's
if
Hollywood.
if I made a horror movie, I would just put in the beginning, we made this stuff up.
You don't. It doesn't
fictional.
have. It doesn't
Just
have to
for
be
shits and
true.
giggles.
Yeah. It'll still be scary for the hour and a half that you're in the theater.
I do like the fact that there was at least one theater, evidently, that had priests come in to bless the audience.
I love it.
In the Philippines.
Was it in the Philippines? Oh,
yes.
Okay. Well, that changes it because I thought it was a gimmick. Because
that might be the case, but
in the olden days they would do stuff like you would go to a crappy horror movie and it was the stupidest
Body of Christ, of Christ.
But it was like the stupidest, lamest horror movie ever. But they would make you sign a waiver. before you walked in.
To build the intensity.
And it's like, you can't sue the filmmakers of the theater if you die of a heart attack while watching this movie. And, teenagers are like, oh my God, this is going to be so scary. And then, 90 minutes later, they're thinking, I can't believe I paid to see this,
Bastards.
I've actually watched it twice this week.
Really?
I watched it last night. I watched it when I was in South Carolina over the weekend. I put it on to fall asleep to it. So...
What the hell is wrong with you,
But I watched
cousin?
it in its entirety last night again. My boyfriend watched it, and I think we'd seen it one other time together. But I find it scary. But jump scares is what scares me. Other things don't typically scare me, and my house can kind of be a little. I'm all decorated for Halloween, so you can imagine. I have random heads in my house, and
I see Brandy posting all the time on Facebook. You guys, she's like, "Oh yay, the Halloween store's open! Time to decorate the house." And it's like, but that's like your year-round decor.
Absolutely.
In All Hallows Eve store in January. How droll!
How trite. But yeah, no, in my research, I read that priests in the Philippines performed blessings before the film was shown. So I don't know if it was a gimmick. It says it.
No, that sounds like it was legit.
No, they say it might have been a ploy to up ticket sales, or it might have been a hint of paranoia concerning the dark feelings that came along with the movie. But Catholic priests were actually brought in to bless the audience in the Philippines. Huh. Yeah.
I like phrasing it like they were brought in, like tanks pulled up to the front. A bunch of Catholic priests got up.
We need a brigade. Now what could be more surprising?
Gallons of holy water.
And they would do the one I liked was the if you died during the movie, the producers would pay for a coffin. And there was a thing, and again, these movies were the least frightening movies that had ever been made. These like horrible 50s monster movies where it's like
it's obviously a dude in a wolf suit.
Yeah, Bird-Eye Gordon movies and stuff like that, where no one is getting scared by this. But it was brilliant because they would build up all this anticipation. No one will be admitted in the last 30 minutes of the movie. Please do not tell anyone the ending of the movie. And it's like, oh my God, I gotta go see it. I can't believe I fell for this again.
That's crazy.
And they did, and there was a little boy named Adam in a drive-in somewhere.
Oh God. watching Shivers of all damn things.
Can we talk for a second because Adam's not here?
Yeah, let's talk some major trash.
Here's the witch.
Yeah, the puking in the mouth scene, that'll get you an R rating.
Adam, that's what made us think of you.
Yeah. No, that was a coincidence, total coincidence.
Liar.
Yeah, I still can't believe that his mom took him to see Shivers.
You saw the looks I was giving him when we did that episode. I was like, and what was hilarious, Brandy, is that our good friend Adam Brown, he mentioned the movie Shivers, and so we did that as an episode, and he said, yeah, when I was about 11 years old, my mom took me to the drive-in, and we watched that whole movie, and she was like, worse things could have happened. And I was just like, what?
Well, I will throw my mom under the bus completely. She never cared what I watched. Now, if it was sexual, absolutely. Mm-hmm. I'll never forget going to the drive-in in Dalton one time, and it was a double feature, and we were watching this animal be sacrificed, and this guy who was supposedly the devil drinking blood from like this golden goblet. It was a very intense movie, and I really wish I could remember the name of it because I would totally watch it again and probably laugh. It was probably that bad.
Yeah, I was about to say.
But then second feature comes on, and then automatically, like 5 minutes in, it's two naked girls making out. And she's like, cover your eyes, we're leaving.
Oh my God.
So I got to watch anything horror related I wanted to, but that was absolutely enough.
It's like watching movies with my dad when I was a kid, and like a naked, a topless woman, because it would be the one scene that they put in there to get that. My dad was always like, geez, turn your head.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't exactly verify that my head was turned. He would just, he felt as though if he just said that was sufficient. He'd done his job. Well, he'd communicated that you need to turn your head, and then he kept watching.
That's kind of the premise of the show. I know we've ventured off the original premise, which is that we grew up in a time when our parents didn't really worry about what we watched, and my mother got a little offended, Brandy, and you can hear her voice. She's like, it's not that we didn't care. It's just that
we didn't know any better.
Well, she was like, back then it was just entertainment. We didn't think about it like it was going to turn you into a serial killer or like a rapist.
I turned out completely okay.
Obviously.
Yeah. Well, people, there's an old book, The Wizard's First Rule, which that's a whole conversation. But
crickets.
In the book, the wizard's first rule is that if you want people to believe something, make it something that they would be afraid is true. Because you can always convince people to believe something that they're scared is true. And I think with horror movies, it's the same with video games. People would, come on the news and they would tell parents, did you know that if your kid watches Nightmare on Elm Street, he's going to turn into a psychopathic, devil worshiping killer? Yeah, and there
with
was
a bad sweater.
Yeah, and it was always nonsense, but parents were afraid that it might be true.
Mm-hmm.
And just the fact that they were scared of that possibility, it turned into this whole thing where now all of a sudden, what's wrong with you? Your child likes watching these Friday the 13th movies. What's wrong with him? And it's like, well, yeah, so does everyone else.
Well, I don't know. We just had my cousin admit that she turned on The Conjuring to fall asleep to. So God
I could actually. I mean, other than the ending, I could see that it's a very calm movie up until the end, up until the Exorcism.
I found it really interesting. Of course, there were some jump scares, a few. But I really liked it, and it held my attention, and I have the attention span of like a 4-year-old. Literally, my boyfriend has a theory that if someone doesn't die within the first 18 minutes of a show, I'm done with it. And typically, that's kind of true. So I need action, and you won't find me watching a lot of like romantic movies unless they're just hilarious. I typically like action or horror or sci-fi or whatever, and I've got to have something to hold my attention. And this definitely, I've seen it probably 6 or 7 times since I saw it released at the theater. And, I can totally fall asleep to it.
Yeah, I had never seen this movie. And when y'all talked about The Nun a few minutes ago, I thought that was this movie for a second. So, because that poster came up when I was searching for The Conjuring.
Did you see the picture of it? Because I was about to pull it up and show it to you. It's pretty scary.
I talked to Megan. I was like, does this movie involve a nun that looks like Jigsaw from Saw? And she was like, I can't remember, because Meg's a big connoisseur of, the scary movies like you are, Brandy. So I was like, well, I need to know. I'm not watching more than one scary movie tonight. So,
well, see, and when you asked me to come on, I was thinking, I get to talk about all of these movies. When you said pick your favorite, and I'm like,
gotcha.
I can't pick one favorite. I can pick 20 favorites. I can't pick one.
Well, the good news is that you can always come back.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the maid has just appeared.
Yes.
And
the cameras are flashing.
Yeah, the cameras are going off, and weirdness is happening. And I think this is the most effective part of the movie.
It's almost like an Acme moment where Bugs Bunny jumps over all the bear traps and doesn't get stuck in them. Where all the bulbs are flashing and they're trying to catch the creature and it's just not happening.
Well, they don't have a proton pack. I mean, what kind of a ghost investigator goes into anything like this without a trap,
for real,
a jumpsuit?
If Egon were here, this movie would already be over.
It would have been 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It would have been 5 minutes. This is it? This is what you called us out here for?
This isn't even fun. Like, it's Slimer. Come on, guys.
Yeah. It's basically Slimer, but he's mean. Which
mean John Belushi.
Yeah, mean John Belushi. They have sort of the tropes of modern paranormal movies where they've got the gear, they're listening to the EVPs, and they're doing all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I think because it's in the 70s and it's with 70s gear, I think the period really helps the movie. I think it really makes it a more enjoyable movie.
Well, and that's why a lot of those horror movies take place in the 60s, in the 70s, before we had the technology to dispel a lot of, the spooky aspects. Like, nowadays we've got cameras that are not just infrared, but like can see so much better in the dark. And it's like, it was just this really creaky floorboard the entire time. Technology has helped us with that.
There's actually an app to detect ghosts. Did you know that?
Oh, of course. Why not? Right.
Went on a paranormal investigation in St. Augustine.
Oh, my God.
And so she gives us these like really weird, keep your phones off. And, we walked around and went to a cemetery, an old cemetery, and explored. And your whatever was supposed to light up,
like
if
Pokemon
there was activity,
Go.
kind of. And then so she pulls out this app, this literal app on her phone, and it's, you can hear this and you can hear this. And it was it was funny.
That's kind of like that it's not the Walking Dead specifically app, but it's a workout app that involves zombies.
Oh yeah, I've heard that.
Where you're running and you got your headphones.
Being chased by zombies.
Yeah, and the slower you run, the more slowly you run, the louder the zombies get, like they're chasing you. So it motivates you to run faster because they get quieter.
Trot. Zombies or no, trot. That's about it.
I am power walking the hell away from these zombies.
Hey, when I was a kid, zombies couldn't run. You know, when I was a kid, zombies
Well, they don't run on The
zombies.
Walking Dead either. They run in like 28 Days Later and different franchises. Yeah.
I Am Legend.
Yeah, 28 Days Later. A movie where the main characters are really desperate to be eaten by zombies because they do every single possible thing to get eaten by zombies.
Yep.
You know, let's go to sleep in the middle of a field. I know. Let's take prescription drugs, then go to sleep in the middle of a field.
Yep. At least we won't feel the teeth gnashing into us. That's a plus.
You know. But
it looks like we're finally coming to the crux of the movie.
Yeah, and this is, you know, when it all becomes clear. See, here's what got me. It was like the answer to the question is the witch possesses people and makes them kill their children. And the only problem with that is that I didn't know that was the question. It's like, we figured it out, but I didn't know we were trying to figure it out. Maybe I knew enough about it beforehand.
Possibly.
And it's sort of like, okay, well, didn't they already know that? Like, they knew it was a witch, right? And they knew she killed her kids. Like, they knew that part. I don't know. You know, it needed an ending.
Yeah.
is what happened. They have to have everything come to its dramatic conclusion.
Yeah, and of course we wind up in the creepy crawl space in the basement.
I know, the crawl space.
And a hangman's noose that somehow hasn't unraveled in like the 50 or so years since somebody hanged themselves.
That's a good hemp.
Yeah,
you know?
that was a
That's a New England knot right there. They know how to tie them knots.
Ooh, the ice cream cone. That one sounds complicated.
Yeah.
But
tying a hangman's noose.
So we get to really the sort of end of the movie where
there's so many crawl spaces. I've never lived in a house with crawl spaces like that.
And yet it still has like 50 billion rooms.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, the house is the size of a shopping mall.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if they keep running...
I mean, it's a family of 5, and yet there are all these rooms, and yet the children have to double up in bedrooms. That doesn't make any sense either.
It's like, why can't I have that room? Well, that's the one potato too, buddy.
Sorry. Sucks to be you.
Do you guys even know what one potato two is?
No.
You've never heard of the place? God, it's so weird.
The place? No.
The restaurant?
No.
Oh, okay. That's so weird. I've said that apparently no one around here knows what the one potato two. It was like a mall restaurant. This one I know is not the Mandela syndrome.
I was going to say that's an alternate universe.
No, because I have actually met people who remember it, and I've
Twilight.
seen people make jokes about it on TV. But it's one of those things that it's
Was anyone else around when you heard those jokes on TV?
Yeah, but they were puppets.
Gotcha.
So, but they could talk.
His
so
imaginary
it was cool.
friends.
I wish I had imaginary friends.
Can you see them right now? Oh, I missed a huge opportunity on the shivers. I need to bring that up because Adam had that theory that the parasites were like, they had stories installed, and that's why they made their hosts behave a certain way. I was like, so wait a minute. They're basically Teddy Ruxpins with like different tapes being inserted into their bodies.
Yeah, that's sort of it. Yeah. Hey, don't mess with Teddy Ruxpin. Have you seen the video?
White lady!
Yeah. What did we do before the internet?
I don't know.
What did we do?
We were probably a lot more productive.
Yeah. Well, I
don't know about that.
I don't know. I actually think the internet helps my productivity because before the internet, I couldn't have a TV at work, and I work better with the TV on.
Same.
And I remember the first job I had where I would we couldn't stream anything. There was nothing to stream, but I would bring in something and I would play it on my computer, and my boss was like, "You can't do that. You can't watch TV at work." And I'm like, "Why?" It's like, "Well, because
I'm accomplishing probably more than what the other was."
Yeah, no, I'm getting more work done. You can look at the numbers. I'm doing more work now than I was. And it's like, but still, it just feels wrong.
Yeah, my boss loves that because I had Bob's Burgers on once in my office, and it was the episode where the mechanical shark is flopping down the street, the 3D
I think that's my favorite episode of Bob's Burgers.
It's one of my top.
I love that episode.
It's one of my top 5, but my boss does not invest in entertainment really at all. He doesn't know The Walking Dead, doesn't know Bob's Burgers, nothing. And he was like, "Is this the Sharknado?" And I was like, "Oh no." I was like, "This is a cartoon." Not that, but Bob's Burgers is so much better than
Did he say it like that, Sharknado?
No, he literally said Sharknado. I still tease him about it. I was like, what about that word?
Is that Sharknado?
Yeah, he's not with the times, but that's okay.
Yeah.
But so now here's the problem. This I know that X-Men came, well, maybe around the same time as this movie, because remember when...
Or did they? Sorry, Adam's not here. I gotta do it.
You gotta fill the void.
Look. I don't want to do it. It's just something
It's a disease.
Yeah.
He's your parasite. But yeah. Hey, you started this nonsense.
Oh, God.
I just brought it home. So anyhow, the mom being dragged around.
It's a horror movie where everybody starts acting like Adam Brown. It's the most terrifying movie ever.
Let's get that. Then I would definitely burn the house down for sure. But no, the mom starts getting dragged around by the possession, and I was like, that makes me think of Magneto when they spike that guard with all the iron in his blood, and Magneto's like, "Oh, what is it with you? You're different today. Too much iron in your blood." And then he was throwing him up in the air because he was suddenly magnetic enough for Magneto to do that. That's what the mom... I was like, oh, all those iron supplements she's been taking. Yeah, that's the part
where the guard is flying from one wall to the other going, "This seems implausible."
Well, and the fact that Lorraine Warren thought to get scissors to cut the hair. So, that automatically keeps the witch from, picking up more hair and dragging her around.
Yeah, thank God that she was so fast with those sewing scissors.
Yeah, she's like the nurse on the Lice episode, just shaves her head.
Meanwhile, there's a woman somewhere in this country who has watched this movie. She's like, "No, those are my fabric scissors. What are you doing?"
I would say those are my hair scissors.
I that's why I looked at you. I was like, I knew Brandy was going to say that.
Well, so we are approaching, if not the end of the movie, the end of our time with the movie.
So we need to go over really quickly. We kind of already did, but what's the ending of the movie, Brandy?
The ending is she is depossessed by the
possession
witch.
be gone.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll depossess any housewife for $29.95.
Free shipping.
Well, for 3 easy payments.
Yeah.
She's no longer possessed, and I guess they go back to their normal lives in the movie. Mm-hmm. And
you have to keep talking, even though I'm taking pictures.
I can't. I've got to pose.
No, you don't.
But and then of course the Warrens go to the next,
Yeah. Where the
investigation.
Yeah, and they go.
And they just peace out. They're like, "Our work here is done.
Yeah,
bye, gang."
Yeah,
and it's all over.
I mean, it would be a hell of an interesting life,
That's very true.
We're going from case to case, from town to town, trying to find the person who murdered your father, but always getting mixed up in these paranormal things. I think that could be a series.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
How does that? And they could cast Jeffrey Dean Morgan, and then I would actually watch it.
He's probably available.
He was in the show. I hate you. So anyway, we get priests involved because, like you do, and they basically they bust the ghost.
Yeah, they do.
And then the family goes back to living their normal life for the next decade in the house.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Warrens need to tell people at the beginning of an investigation. It's best case scenario is we get rid of the ghost, and then you burn the house down.
Yes,
and then you leave.
Yeah, don't leave any of this behind. Like, just
or worst
burn it to the
case
ground.
Scenario, everyone dies.
Yeah, I mean, you have to put that in the addendums just in case. Like, you don't want anybody thinking that failure isn't an option.
Are you Dana menstruating?
Oh God!
Bill Murray would have taken a totally different approach.
No, Dana, only Zulu.
Oh, Zuli.
Oh God! But yeah, so this is about time, Brandy, where we approach our final thoughts on the movie, and we tell people where they can find us on the social mediums. So any final thoughts on this movie about maybe why you picked it? Any special facts you wanted to share that we didn't?
I picked it because you pressured me to choose a damn movie.
Yeah, and you didn't choose one until 2 days before we recorded.
I did not. There was like a lot of options, and I was actually going to pick Hereditary, but I was afraid that would absolutely terrify you.
I've never even heard of it, and that's probably because the good Lord has made machinations to keep me the hell away from it if it sounds that scary.
It's an interesting movie. But I chose this one just because I find the Warrens and their story really interesting. You know, Hollywood, of course, has dramatized everything a lot, but
they are interesting. There's no two ways about that.
The whole museum is interesting. The idea that they kept the artifacts, and I always find. I take it back to Supernatural and the artifacts. And then before that, Friday the 13th, the series, their artifacts. And, you know, and the fact that this family keeps these to supposedly keep people safe, you know, and so they're not released back out into the world again. But the fact that it is loosely based, I would say, on true story quotation marks, and that they're actually real people. And they did come under a lot of scrutiny for supposedly being demonologists and, you know, handling all of these paranormal investigations. I find that I will continue to watch, you know, anything about this particular family.
I think it's admirable that they keep the artifacts off the street. It's like when Phoebe on Friends has an entire tray of alcohol, and Rachel's like, Phoebe, what are you doing with all those drinks? She's like, if I drink more, then there's less for the kids to drink. Like, I'm doing a service here. So that's cool. Well, Brandy, is there anywhere that you would like for people to find you on the social media? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, anywhere like that? A website you want to share,
I am on Facebook. I have a professional profile, which is Hair and Makeup Artistry by Brandy Wyrick. And I also have an Instagram profile, which is Brandy_Scissorhands13. Follow me.
She doesn't do hair for a living, gang. No, not at all. But I will actually be more than happy to link those in our show notes on our website when your episode comes out. And gang, as always, you can reach us at Hindsight is Horrifying on Instagram. You can reach us at Hindsight Horror on Twitter and Facebook. And we have a new domain name, which is hindsight.show. So please stay tuned for the spectacular happenings of Hindsight is... What have you been calling it, Jason?
Oh, I call it all kinds of different things. I still think it should be Hindsight is Hilarious.
But you let your business partner name it, so that's the problem.
Yeah.
Well, gang, this has been a great time. Brandy, thank you for joining me and Jason in the studio. It's been a blast. And thank you guys for spending your drive time, your business time, your whatever kind of time with us. We appreciate it, and we will see you next time.
Good night, everybody.